Welcome into the Grown Man's Podcast, episode 42. And absolutely no news has happened in our 1 week hiatus from the podcast. Across from me, as always, is Tommy, or actually not across from me. Across town from me.
Yeah.
In the post-vacation mode, T-Bone, a.k.a. self-quarantined T-Bone.
That's true.
How's it going?
I'm doing okay. I'm, as you said, I am self-quarantined. I got back from my beautiful, lovely vacation, which is why we did not have an episode last week. And, yeah, while I was gone, the world seemed to change a little bit. So, yeah.
Just a little bit with the coronavirus outbreak and everything closing down, which we'll get into a little bit later into the show. Yeah, people buying all the toilet paper, all the meat, all the food. How you doing with the shopping over there? Being gone for a week, right in prime time.
It was I was not here for be able to get ahead of the curve. I came back to vacant grocery stores and no toilet paper anywhere. Fortunately, I had like 5-6 rolls at the house, but 5-6 rolls between me and my wife and our 5 children, they ain't gonna last too long. So I had to get out right away and try to find some. Fortunately, I was able to find a big old pack of 24, so we should be fine. Yeah. I walked right into the Walmart.
Surprised.
Me too. I walked right into the Walmart, and I jokingly said to the guy who was stocking the shelves, I said, "So, which aisle is the toilet paper in?" And he said, actually, we just put down 2 pallets over there in the toilet paper aisle. So if you're smart, you go get them quickly. So we went over there, and they were already half gone. And I grabbed one, and I grabbed one for my father-in-law, and then I probably within 2 minutes, the rest of them were gone. I mean, the entire aisle was wiped out. There was not a single square of toilet paper to be found. It was pretty strange looking.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it was a pretty surreal experience. We went to the grocery store and got stuff. I think it was Saturday, last Saturday, and the shelves were just wiped. Like, we were trying to get water. Water was gone. Fortunately, we got water a couple days before that, so we're good on that. And we got stocked up on some food and things, but all the meat was gone. We just happened kind of the same scenario as you. Like, over the intercom, they said that there was a produce shipment that just came in. So I went over and talked to the employees, and they're like, yeah, we just got a whole big shipment of meat in, so we're going to be packing the shelves. And literally, I was third in line, and there was people lined up, like, grabbing it as they were bringing it out of the boxes from the truck.
That's crazy.
And there was limits on everything. Like, you only could get, like, we were able to get, like, 2 packs of chicken, and that was it. But it was empty when we arrived, and within 10 minutes of them unloading stuff, it was empty again.
It was crazy.
Like, really surreal. Like, you always see like the news broadcasts of when a hurricane or something's going to hit, like the islands or like Florida, where hurricanes usually do, of the grocery stores where it's empty, and you're like, wow, that's weird. I've never experienced it, like,
I know,
personally, like going into a store and just having the shelves just wiped clean.
Yep. I know, it's crazy.
Wiped clean.
I know. Like, I was walking. I mean, the only stuff that's left there is, which I found kind of strange, was like the chips and the candy were the only thing that looked like it looked before I left for vacation. Pretty much even like the flour. Like, there was there wasn't a single pack of flour because I was going to make a couple loaves of bread and stuff.
I think everybody had that idea.
I mean, not a single pound of flour in the entire Walmart. Like, I guess I wouldn't think in today's society that people are thinking, I'll make my own bread since I can't get some. I mean, me from like 2 months ago would have just thought, well, I guess I'm not having bread then. But people, I guess, are going into panic mode, which, I mean, it's a scary situation. I mean, who the heck knows really the length and the width and the breadth of what's going on here, how bad it's going to get or how long it's going to be bad. So I hope that all of our listeners out there, I hope that whatever's going on in your world, that that things are safe, that you guys are following the local guidelines and washing your hands and doing all the stuff that you need to do, because we don't want anybody getting it or spreading it.
Nope. Stay safe out there. Yep. Like, I know in New York, all the bars, restaurants, gyms, movie theaters, casinos. Seems like there was one other big thing that I'm missing. All closed as of 8 p.m. today, so that's kind of crazy as well.
Yep, in New York they said no gatherings of more than 10 people.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
crazy.
Yeah,
It is crazy.
I mean that's unprecedented for the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the weird laws that I think like came out of it all is you can now have takeout bar drinks.
Really?
They they passed a special law because all the bars and restaurants are closing. So now anything at the bar that you could have ordered, you can get to go.
What?
Yeah,
I don't think
Isn't
that's a
that
good
crazy?
idea. That seems like a really bad idea.
I tell you, when I was living in Tennessee, probably 10 years ago now, they had like you could buy like a 24-ounce beer in a drive-through.
What?
And you like see people pull up and just like empty it into their Yeti cup and drive off.
Man, that's the South for you. God love them.
I was like, that's not something I'm used to seeing.
No, I think I want to say Alabama. In Alabama, you can legally drink and drive as long as you're not drunk.
What?
So, yeah.
That's crazy.
It may not be Alabama. It might be another southern state that I'm just getting mixed up. But I'm probably 80% sure it's Alabama. So yeah, pretty crazy, huh?
All right.
But yeah, so if our audio sounds different on my end versus Hattie's end, it's because it is. We're in two different locations, two different rooms, so the acoustics are going to be different, no doubt. I've strung up blankets. My wife does photography, so she has some backdrop stands, so I hung blankets over top of those and strung some blankets up in the other direction, trying to cut down on any kind of echo that I have here. I think it did okay last time that me and old Ricky were recording here, so I'm hoping that's going to be okay. I'm under quarantine for 14 days from when I got back because there was a confirmed case on my ship.
Not good.
So yeah, not good at all, unfortunately. So I'm not afraid. I mean, it's just the likelihood of anything bad happening to me or my family is very, very, very small. It's essentially only affecting the elderly and the compromised immune systems, which everybody knows. But it does affect your life. I mean, I can't be around anybody, including you. I had to stop by to pick up my microphone, and you had to walk down the stairs to your place and put it on the stairs, and then I got out and went over and got it. So
Yep.
It's a little bit weird, a little bit surreal, but
Yeah, it's a little weird.
But it was nice to
Weird
have
for sure.
It was nice to have the free agency today, to be honest with you. I mean, it was nice for about a 2 to 3 hour period. I didn't even think about coronavirus once today. So I think that amidst all the confusion and the craziness, to have a little bit of a reprieve in the sporting world has been actually kind of nice.
Yeah, I was actually watching a YouTube of Skip Bayless, who was like live streaming from his house, and he's like, man, in all my life, like my escape is sports, and I can come home and I can like watch them on the weekend, and I love sports and being able to do that. And now it's like you're in a situation where you have to be home, and you can't do the one thing that you really want to and the one thing that you really love. It's kind of surreal in that regard.
It is, but, indeed.
You made the comment of our audio sounding different. I was actually listening to another podcast today on my way home from work, and I was like, man, the audio sounds kind of crappy. Like, usually they're pretty decent. And then, 30 seconds into it, they're like, well, if we sound different, it's because we're under self-quarantine at home, and we're recording on, our mics that we had at home, and we're just, trying to make it work. It's like, oh, yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today.
Yep, absolutely.
So, yeah, so let's get right into it. We do have a lot of news, as you said. Thanks again for tuning in. If you'd like to follow us on Twitter, it's at GrownMansPod. And if you notice, we didn't have a normal podcast last week, but we did have a Patreon exclusive one.
Oh, yeah.
So if you would like to get those exclusive podcasts, you can do so by going to patreon.com/GrownMansPodcast. And as always, just interact with us and ask us questions and be active there. We love to, especially during this time when a lot of people have maybe a few extra minutes on their hands. Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. If you're at home, if you're working from home, you ain't working as hard as you were working when you were sitting in an office somewhere. You got a little time to
take a 15-minute Twitter break.
Yeah.
And ask the Grown Man's Podcast some questions.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. We love to hear it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's get right into
and
the news.
We also want to thank our Patreon supporters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to forget them. I mean, they're the lifeblood
Don't.
of the podcast.
Never want to forget them.
Yeah, so that's Darlene, Gus, Barry, and West. So thank you guys so much for your support. We appreciate it.
Yeah, very much.
Yep. All right, so what do you got for news, Addy?
Well, there is labor peace in the NFL. The new CBA has been signed and voted in by the players. So 10 years before we have to do another one. So we're caught up. As sports fans, we get to watch football without any interruptions until 2030.
Love it. Absolutely
2030.
love it.
I love it as well. We also get an extra game, which I'm kind of excited about. I know some players weren't real thrilled about. And also a new playoff structure. In 2022, I believe, the playoff structure kicks in, though. 2021, I believe, the 2021 season would kick off the 17-game season. What are your thoughts?
I love it. I absolutely love. I from what I've heard about the CBA, I think it is a really reasonable compromise for both players and owners in the league. You know, the players get the ability to get a pension after 3 years in the league opposed to 4 years. The base minimum salary for players in the league has come up. The number of players that will be able to dress for games on Sundays is up to 48 players, I believe. And
Yeah, I know it's up to 55 for the actual rosters.
Active roster? Okay, cool.
Yep. So it's up 3.
Yeah, you know, I mean, what else is there? You know, obviously they're getting an extra game check, which, I mean, that's a good thing. I mean, I love that more teams are going to be in the playoffs because, honestly, you know, as a Jets fans, you know, sometimes we're right on the cusp, but we just showed up a little bit too late to the dance to be able to.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to get a playoff game in once in a while.
Yeah, it'd be nice to at least go.
You just want to be excited for something.
Well, it's one extra game, you know, or more. I mean, I suppose if you're a fan of a good team, one extra game to watch your team. You have that, you know, little shred of hope, even if your team just squeaks into the playoffs, because it's single elimination. So, you know, I think it's going to make it a lot more fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to make it more exciting. Mm-hmm. And I believe the last 2 times a 7-9 division winner has went to the playoffs, they've won in the wild card weekend against a so-called better team, a better record team.
Yeah. Well, because let's face it, with the way that the seeding works, I mean, a lot of times the wild card team is better than the 3rd or 4th team. You know, I mean, like for instance. You know, when you have 2-3 teams from one division making the playoffs in the previous arrangement, you know, those second and third in the division, you know, I mean, they're still really good teams, obviously. But they just weren't good enough to win the division, you know, sometimes down to a tiebreaker or whatever the case may be. And sometimes you have teams, you know, that are winning the division and they're just getting by the hair of their chinny chin chin. You know, I mean, we've had teams that have made it the playoffs by winning their division with a losing record before. I think the Panthers did that back, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. They were 7-8-1.
Yep, I know the Seahawks did it. They were, I believe, 7-9 when they did it, and they won their first playoff game.
Yeah, so I mean, you never know.
You just never know.
But you know, I think it's good. I think it's good for the league. Expanded to 17 games regular season, which, you know, we're going to get an extra game from that for everybody, even the crappy teams.
And doing away with one of the preseason games, so we're only going to have 3 preseason games. So
I love that.
You know, do away with one of those games.
Yep. So
nobody watches them anyway. Nobody cares.
I don't know why they're all bent out of shape. You know, some of those big name players. You know, the J.J. Watts and the Maurice Pounceys and the, you know, whoever out there.
The thing that I've been reading, and I read a little bit a couple days ago about it, and it seemed to be that the big time players, the J.J. Watts, the Russell Wilsons, the Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, those type of guys did not like the deal. But it was the other guys who are only making, you know, $2, $3, $4, you know, $7 million a year. Those are the guys that really liked it, because I think it helped out a lot of those players with, you know, getting a pension after 3 years instead of 4, upping the actual amount of money that they make if you're a minimum level guy. I mean, you look at those contracts, and if you're only getting one more game check, and you're making $2 million a year and you get an extra check, I mean, that's pretty significant.
Oh, yeah.
But if you are like Russell Wilson who's making, $30 million, it's not really that big of a deal.
No.
They just don't want the 17th game.
Right. Which is stupid,
but they cut,
because they're making more money.
Yeah, I know. I mean, they cut down on the padded practices, too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't love that. That's the only thing I've heard about it that I don't love. I think they need to have more, required or, whatever you want to call it, forced practices.
If that's the concession that needs to be made
I'm
between
okay with that. I mean,
owners and fans, I'm fine with that because the start of the NFL season anyway, the first week or two, tackling's not as good. Like, players are a little bit more rusty. Mm-hmm. Okay, so maybe that's the first 3 weeks now where it's not, as in sync as it probably could. Mm-hmm. I would rather watch one more, 80% game where people aren't quite up to speed than a preseason game.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I would definitely take that over the preseason. Preseason, by week 1 of the preseason, you're like, yeah, football's back on. By week 2 of the preseason, you're like, all right. And by week 4 of the preseason, you're like, for the love of God, can this be over? So,
yep.
That fourth preseason game, I would imagine that the third preseason game is just going to become the fourth preseason game, as far as not playing any of your starters. But at least,
for sure.
At least we're dropping off one of the weeks of the preseason.
Yeah. I usually like the last week of preseason.
Yeah.
Because usually that's where you get to see your rookies that were drafted and some of the players that you kind of liked but haven't hit the spark yet, and you're kind of hoping that it's going to be their year. Mm-hmm. That's usually where they play, is week 4.
Yeah, but I don't need a whole
week
game.
3 a little bit.
I don't need a whole game of it. Is my point. I'm totally okay with seeing them the last half of each preseason game. The second half of the game, totally enough time for me to be able to see the progress they're making and whether or not they're, good when the lights are on. That's enough for me. I don't need an entire game of where they're starting and the guys that are coming on after them, are going to be flipping burgers by the same time next week. That's just not good for
sure.
It's not good television. It's nobody cares about it. It's just, they're only doing it because technically they have to play 60 minutes of the game, so they're like, who the heck can we throw out? They got the punter out there snapping balls or whatever the heck, So I mean, it's just it's no good. Get rid of one of the games.
That'd be pretty funny, actually.
It would be pretty funny.
If you just put random positions at quarterback just to be this doesn't mean anything.
Right. So yeah, I'm glad we don't have to worry about labor disputes or any kind of issues like that for the next 10 years. I think that's amazing that they were able to get it done so quickly and so painlessly.
Yeah, after going through some labor disputes in some other leagues, it's definitely nice to know that the next 10 years you're just going to be able to watch football and not have to worry about canceled season or a shortened season or anything like that, like they usually threaten if something doesn't go right.
Yep, rare win for Roger.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's my first news item. Okay. What do you got?
I have a if you've been living under a rock news item that's from about 2 weeks ago. Happened after we recorded our last episode. These juicy news items often do happen. But Quinnen Williams, the first-round pick for the Jets, 3rd overall in the 2019 draft, was arrested at LaGuardia Airport for trying to board a plane with a pistol in his luggage. Now, I will say the pistol was registered to him in Alabama. So it was legally his pistol. It wasn't like an illegal gun or something like that, but it was not registered to him in New York. And the way that pistol laws work, especially with New York City doesn't allow any pistols. Even if, for instance, I have a pistol permit, but I can't take it down into New York City, all 5 boroughs of New York City, it is not okay for me to have my pistol in there. So, and he had it. He did not have a New York license for it. And New York and Alabama do not have reciprocity, which is where you're allowed to use your state's gun license in their state, vice versa. So yeah, just a stupid mess up really on his part. I don't think it was anything like malicious or anything to that effect, but just a stupid mistake, on his part, and hopefully they're able to get it pled down to have it not be what is currently being charged as, which I believe is a 3-year minimum prison sentence, which there's no way that he's going to end up serving 3 years in prison for this, but I don't want it affecting, any of his off-season stuff or progress or getting suspended or anything crazy like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's what I got.
Right. So my last one is just if you've also been living under a rock, the coronavirus is around, and it's affected a lot of things, including a lot of sports. And I just have kind of the list of the sports leagues that have been canceled, shut down, just for a period of time. The NBA suspended. NCAA tournament March Madness of college basketball has been completely canceled.
Crazy.
They're not even going to do it.
I think that's crazy. Don't you think that's crazy?
That's crazy. Like, for all of college, like, NCAA is a huge thing every year. Like, ginormous. Not to try to postpone this or do anything, just flat out cancel.
Why would they do that? Like, why wouldn't they leave the door open and say, who knows if a month from now, things get better, we can have April Madness,
Yeah, it's really crazy that it's just flat out canceled like that. But it might have something to do with it is college. Like, those players aren't paid. There is college.
They're not paid in March either, though.
The year, yeah, but you only have them like the semesters. The way that those things run, I don't know exactly how all that stuff works.
Oh, good Lord!
When they have finals and all that kind of stuff.
Have the president sign a new bill into order that says it's okay. That's all we're doing now. We're just we're like, oh, we can't do this under the current way things are done. We'll just make it up and sign. Which is good. I mean, we need that to happen because a lot of these things, like in the presidential address, he said, the system was antiquated and wasn't set up to handle this kind of a situation. So they had to kind of rewrite it on the fly. But yeah, come on, Trump. I mean, get in there and get something done. Get March Madness back. Hashtag
get it back.
Hashtag bring back April Madness.
That's right. Yeah. The MLB has canceled the remainder of spring training, pushed back the start of the regular season.
Now here,
the NHL.
Now I'll stop you there. I think that's a problem. Because the end of
pushing it back,
the end of baseball season comes dangerously close to football season, and I don't need none of that crap baseball clogging up the TV channels when it's football season.
It's going to
get the heck out.
9 months out of the year anyway, so it's going to be pushed back.
Lord,
probably at least a month.
Good
least
Lord.
A month.
I mean, they can play the games without having fans there.
Yeah, but there's still a chance of the teams got to travel together and get hotels and
let's face it,
together. And
this is coming down to a money issue. They make a lot of their money by concession sales and ticket sales, and they don't want to play games where they are not selling tickets and they are not selling concessions.
For sure.
I think that's what it comes down to. I mean, they could do it.
I think that has a part in it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the owners of the stadium that your team's playing in is not going to want to pay all the players and all that stuff and not get ticket and concession sales to have everyone there.
They'd be losing money.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. NHL suspended until further notice. Golf. I think that the PGA Tour one was actually one of the most interesting because they already played a round. Like, they were playing a round of golf, and then they canceled it after one round.
Really?
They were like actively in the middle of the Players' Championship, and they were just like, we're done now. We're not going to start round 2, and it's canceled until further notice.
Well, they did the same thing pretty much with what, soccer? With Manchester? With Liverpool.
Yeah, I think some teams played, and then a couple were canceled in the same day.
Now, I'm speaking from a position of ignorance here because I proudly do not follow soccer. Okay, but
definitely don't play soccer.
No, I do not follow it. I don't play it, and I'm very proud of that. But from what I understand is Liverpool has not won, I don't know, the Super Bowl of soccer, whatever the heck you call it, in a long time, from what I understand, and they were about to win it. Like, they had like a 35-point deficit or whatever. Like, they were up 35 points in something or some I don't know how the heck it works, but they were about to win and it was pretty much a lock, that they couldn't lose. And they were like, yep, we're done with the soccer Super Bowl. So, and I don't know if they plan on picking it back up or if they're just like, yeah, this season didn't happen. I'm not exactly sure, but just let them finish it out, like you said with the round of golf. Like, just finish it out. I mean, no crowds. I mean, I don't have crowds there, but just do it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Good golly.
So let me just get through the last few here. College football canceled their spring games. The XFL has been suspended,
Not the XFL.
as we already mentioned. Yeah, the XFL.
Oh man.
I wonder how that's a startup league. We know how the AAFL, the A Alliance of whatever that one was, the AAFL, whatever it was
just
called.
call it the Alliance.
The Alliance. We know how that turned out. I mean, these leagues are spending a lot of money to get on and don't really necessarily have the fans to sustain it for a while. Like, only being able to play, I think they played 3 or 4 weeks before it was suspended.
Yeah,
so,
probably 4 or 5, I think.
What do all those players do? Like, are they getting paid? That's a rough situation for somebody to just starting out.
Oh, yeah. Bad
but
news.
So, kind of crazy.
Very crazy.
So that's the last one that I have for news.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I got one more quick one. It's Trent Williams, the left tackle for the Washington Redskins, who sat out last year because he was not happy with the Redskins medical staff for failing to notify him about a brain tumor that he had, or something to that effect. Anyway, they were fairly negligent in how they handled his medical situation, and he was really upset with them for that and didn't trust them anymore and wasn't going to play for him. He sat out all of last season, wanting to get traded. They didn't trade him. Well, now they're going to trade him because he said, "I'm still not going to come play for you." So he's out there available on the market. They say that he might be the best left tackle in the entire league. He is on the older side. I think he's 33 years old. Which is getting up there, but tackles are aging better nowadays in the league. Some of them can play until 38, 39 years old. So it's a situation where he's probably got another 3 years at least left in him where he could be in the prime of his career. So they're talking about a first round tender on him, which I don't see that happening at all. I would, the Jets need a left tackle, but I would be very upset if they paid a first round pick for Trent Williams. Considering his injury history, he had a back problem, obviously had the brain tumor situation there. I would not want to pay that high of a price. I'd give up a second for him. I know the Jets are interested in him. I think the Browns are interested in him also. But it was looking like it's going to come to a conclusion of a season-long, little bit of drama with one of the best position players in the league and the dysfunctional Redskins organization,
to say the least.
Yeah. So, and the only other thing I had written down under news, which is one that we can cover in our next segment if you'd like. The most egregious trade from today. Do you want to discuss that now, or do you want to wait until we go through?
We'll discuss it in our next segment.
All right.
How's that?
You want to do that?
Yeah, let's do that was the news, and as you know, the free agency has started, and boy, did it start with a bang. News everywhere. And we're actually just going to go team by team down through the list of the notable things that have happened today. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at the same list as I am, correct?
Yup. So we're just
right.
So we're not even going to go to music first, huh?
Nah, we're just going to get
just going
into it.
Oh man, all right.
Yeah.
You're anxious, Hattie.
I'm very anxious.
Okay, all right.
Haven't podcasted in a whole week.
I know.
A whole week off.
Yeah, it was a little bit weird.
Got a lot of pent up energy for podcasting.
Okay. All right. Well, your cup runneth over. Why don't you take that energy and get us started with the Cardinals if you want?
Nah, I'm gonna let you start with the Cardinals.
You want me to start with the Cardinals? Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you start.
Must be.
This is your news item.
That's true. That is true.
Last thing. So I'll let you cover it.
Quite clearly, I am talking about them putting the franchise tag on our transition tag on Kenyon Drake. That's the big news that I was referring to.
Absolutely. I mean, great player for the Cardinals when he came in.
Oh yeah, that was when I saw
was.
when I saw that news that they put the transition tag on him. I had to pull my car over to the side of the road and make sure that it was even true. No, quite clearly, I am not talking about Kenyon Drake. All that did happen, and they also signed Larry Fitz to an $11 million contract. But we're going to be spending our time talking about the Arizona Cardinals with the DeAndre Hopkins acquisition that happened today. Unbelievable. I cannot believe what happened. Like, Bill O'Brien, he's got to be fired. Like, he is running that team into the ground. Last year he gave away 2 first-round picks for Laramie Tunsil.
Yeah.
I think 2 first-rounders and a second-rounder for Laramie Tunsil, and then traded
something like that.
And then traded away
a lot.
Traded away Clowney for only a second-round pick, and now he trades away DeAndre Hopkins for a second-round pick. And I think they a fourth rounder next year also. But either way, like that's insane. Like,
it is insane.
I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, depending on who you ask, is either the best, the second best, or the third best wide receiver in the league. And you're not going to find anybody that puts him outside of the top 3.
He's a top 3 wide receiver for sure.
Absolutely.
And you gave him away for David Johnson, who let's not do any disrespect to David Johnson. He's a great player.
Well, he was. But he hasn't been the last
getting
couple
up
years.
there in age, right? And is getting older and is not as productive as he used to be.
Right.
But he's still a good player. But he's not a top 3 player by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
And I know they got a second round pick. But
it's crazy.
Still,
it's crazy.
It's just crazy to give away the best. In my opinion, I think he's probably 1 or 2 for me. Maybe 1. I might be leaning towards number 1 for my list. But
here's my thoughts on it. Oh, go ahead. No, I'll interrupt you.
A top 3 wide receiver, and you didn't get anything. You got an aging running back in David Johnson and a second round draft pick.
Right.
Ooh. That's not good enough.
The
Dallas Cowboys gave away a first-round draft pick for Amari Cooper last year,
which is nowhere close to as good as DeAndre Hopkins.
Nowhere near close.
No. And, DeAndre Hopkins has a very reasonable contract, which I know that he does want to get an increase in his contract. But, I mean, as it currently stands, he is currently due, I think, around $13-14 million a year for the next 3 years. And here's what frustrates me the most when I see these kinds of trades is, like, are they not calling around to all the teams being like, I'm shopping DeAndre Hopkins, we want a running back and a second-round pick? Like, because here's the thing. Why in the heck would the Jets have not traded Le'Veon Bell and a second-round pick to get DeAndre Hopkins? We desperately need a wide receiver, a number 1, and, Le'Veon Bell's great, but he wasn't the Le'Veon Bell of the Steelers for us last year, largely, I think, due to the fact that, Adam Gase doesn't know how to use him or doesn't want to use him as a bell cow position in the offense. And so, like, how does that opportunity slip past a team like the Jets, Like, how do you let that go?
Yeah, as far as I know, that's not how trades work. Like, it's just really not, which seems so strange that that's not how trades work, that you wouldn't contact, like, every team and try to get, like, the best deal.
Of course.
But I guess that's not how it works. You call up a couple people or somebody calls you and you just kind of do it.
Like, how is there not, like, a Craigslist, like a, like, wanted running back and second round pick willing to pay the great, the first, second, or third best wide receiver in the league right now.
It needs to be like Madden NFL football. You just got the trade block. You put your guy on there, and you get the bids.
How is that not the way that it's done? I mean, they can't come up with a group chat between all of the, seriously, or like a bulletin board, like an internet bulletin board, where you just place like, hey, DeAndre Hopkins available for trade. Send me your best offer. Like a group chat for a fantasy football league. Like that's literally all it takes is a group chat between everybody, all the GMs, where that's what we do in fantasy football, right? You know, you have somebody,
Yeah,
you're
like
like, hey, this player's available. Direct message me, and give me your best offer.
Yeah.
How hard is that?
It's crazy to think because, like, I mean, I know the Jets need it and the Packers need it. Like, why wouldn't the Packers give a first-round draft pick for DeAndre Hopkins?
Right.
Which is better than any of this. Like, first-round draft pick, give us DeAndre
Especially
Hopkins
because the
deal.
Texans don't have a first-round draft pick. You know,
Yeah,
they traded away.
seems like-
They traded away DeAndre Hopkins and Jadeveon Clowney, and still don't have a first-round draft pick.
Yeah, it's
Like, that's
it's
insane.
that they wouldn't try to get that back. Like, you don't
yeah.
have a first-round draft pick in a pretty deep draft this year in certain positions. I mean, I don't know what positions those are or what the Texans really need, but, I mean, a first-round draft pick, you always can trade again if you need to. You can trade back and get good value for them because there's just so much value on those first-round draft picks in the NFL that they wouldn't try and get that back with your best asset that you have on your team
course.
that you just essentially gave away for an okay player in a second-round pick.
It's insane. I mean,
It's crazy.
I would be surprised if Arizona wouldn't have given up their first-round pick to get him.
Yeah.
Because they were going to go they
sure.
were going to go wide receiver, I think, with their first pick. So, now they don't have to.
And-
Now they can go offensive line and, acquire, Wirfs or Wills, one of those two probably, with their first round pick, shore up that offensive line. And now you got Kyler Murray behind a significantly better offensive line, throwing to one of the very, very best wide receivers in the league. There's no way that offense doesn't improve.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just got to.
I
mean, you just look at those three names that they have that they re-signed or got this year. Like, Kenyon Drake was very good last year. Larry Fitzgerald just is a solid guy, although doesn't have the speed anymore.
Yeah.
And now you have DeAndre Hopkins. And
Unbelievable.
whatever you think of Kyler Murray, I think he's okay. Still, like,
Yeah, he's okay.
learning the ropes. But you put that talent around him, he doesn't need to be anything more than okay
Right.
for that team to be pretty decent.
I mean, Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl.
yeah.
I mean, when you sit down and think about it, I mean, it's like, yeah, it's good to be good, but sometimes just having a good team around you is enough.
Yep.
So
Sure.
yeah, good day for the Cardinals. You gotta be happy if you're the Cardinals that you got DeAndre Hopkins and you still have your first round pick. So good for you, Cardinals fans. If we have any of you listening, but yeah, I'm just in disbelief.
Good job over there. Good job.
All right,
So let's move on to the Atlanta Falcons. Yep. They signed a defensive tackle, Tyler Davison, agreed to a 3-year, $12 million deal. And then they went out and traded for Hayden Hurst from the Ravens with the tight end position. Hayden Hurst.
I can't.
The tight end position.
I can't wait to do this
they-
this drill with you, Hattie, where we can go through and list off all the names of these players in the league. This is gonna be fantastic.
Oh, we're going to mispronounce most, if not all of them. But yeah, they lost out on, is it Austin Hooper?
Austin Hooper, yeah.
Austin Hooper, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So they filled that need a little bit. And that's what the Falcons did. Mm-hmm. What about that?
Yep. So the Ravens also had a fairly productive day today. They were able to pick up Michael Brockers, who's a defensive tackle. He agreed to a $30 million, 3-year, $30 million deal with $21 million fully guaranteed, which is very nice. They got the big one here, I would say, is Calais Campbell. They traded for him from the Jags. They gave up a 5th-round pick. They're finalizing a 2-year, $27 million deal with Campbell, which would be $20 million guaranteed. So I think that right there, that's probably the deal of the day for them. They traded away Hayden Hurst and got back, a 5th round. So they traded away a 5th round, or they got a 5th round, and then they gave up a 5th round.
They got a 2nd round and a 5th round for Hayden Hurst.
They did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then they
here's something to
Calais
consider.
Campbell.
Here's something to consider.
I think
the Falcons paid as much for Hayden Hurst as the Cardinals paid for DeAndre Hopkins. Isn't that insane?
pretty much
For a blocking tight end, that is like been in the league for 1 or 2 years and has done essentially nothing, versus the most like quarterback proof, amazing wide receiver in the league. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
Yep.
I think this is one of the better deals of the day for the Ravens. To get Calais Campbell for a 5th round pick is just insane. Like, obviously he's a little bit older. I think he's 30, 31, somewhere around in there. So he's a little bit older, but he is super solid and a very solid player for a 5th round pick. And then you can get a deal for 2 more years for $17 million for a defensive end in the NFL today. That is a steal.
Yep. And he's great.
And
he's also got a super deep voice, so there's that.
I wish I could take like 10% of his deep voice.
Yeah.
For the podcast.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Better.
Yeah, I will never have even approaching the voice of Calais Campbell. All right, so next up, the couple of just Baltimore guys here. They placed a franchise tag on Matt Judon, and they placed an original round tender on Matt Skura, the center. So those are just guys that were already on the team.
All right. So on to Bills Mafia, the Buffalo Bills. They signed Josh Norman to, I think, a really team-friendly deal. 1 year, only a $6 million contract. It does have some performance incentives in there to push it up to 8, but still. Also, Josh Norman's getting a little bit older. He's not the player he once was, but a very serviceable guy who's probably going to be following around the number 2 wide receiver of the opposing team for a maximum of $8 million. In today's NFL, that's a steal.
Yeah, see, I'll be honest with you. I don't love the Josh Norman acquisition.
Really?
I really don't. I mean, he only
for your second guy.
He only played. I mean, he was playing essentially as the number 2 cornerback in Washington, a team that I may remind you was absolutely, doing everything they could to just try and win a game. I mean, they're picking 2nd overall in the draft this year for a reason. They were not an overly talented team, and he still only played 60% of the snaps, I think, last year. So he is not. I mean, he was at one time an exceptional player. He is no longer that player. So I think $6 million contract for him, I think, was a little bit more than I would like to pay. I think that he's a good, maybe like slot corner. He doesn't travel from, he doesn't travel to follow like a number 1 receiver or anything like that. He just plays the one side of the field, and he's getting burned a lot. I mean, and here's the problem with guys like that: they can be a liability at this point in their career. It's like, is he coming in at a value? He's not as good as he used to be. Well, sometimes the fall off can be quick. Just look at Darrelle Revis. And once they start to slip, they're more of a liability than anything. And sometimes they keep them in there because they paid him money or they feel loyalty to him or whatever the case may be. But I mean, we'll see. I just, I think it's a low level signing. I don't think it's anything that's going to be an exceptionally, great acquisition.
Yeah, I like the deal. I think he'll do well under Sean McDermott.
Yeah.
The other guy that the Buffalo Bills got is Quinton Spain, an offensive guard, re-signed a 3-year, $15 million deal.
Yep. And the next up is the Carolina Panthers. They put the franchise tag or whatever, exclusive rights signing or whatever. There's some weird contracts there for players that are in weird situations. But Kyle Allen, quarterback that was already on the team, they kept him for another year. Also, Russell Okung, left tackle, was signed. I don't see any kind of.
He was traded. So Los Angeles Chargers and Carolina Panthers traded Trey Turner and Russell Okung. They pretty much just swapped teams.
Oh. Look at that, you're right.
Russell Okung is the better tackle at this point, but has a real high contract.
Oh yeah.
Whereas
I did hear that. Yep.
Turner is a solid guy, but not great, but solid, but a lot cheaper.
When I heard it, I tried looking up Trey Turner, and that's why it's spelled weird. There's a baseball player named Trey Turner, not spelled weird, And I was like, why can I only... Oh, Jesus, I almost spilled my whiskey. I was like, why can I only find stuff on this stinking baseball player name? So it's Trai, in case anybody out there cares enough to look it up. But
Yes.
But yeah, I think that was a fairly lateral move there. And then Stephen Weatherly, defensive end, agreed to a 2-year, $12 million contract.
All right. Chicago Bears re-signed their star linebacker, Danny Trevathan. I don't know if he's probably a star. 3-year extension worth $21.75 million.
All right.
Yeah. He's a good linebacker.
Yeah.
He's pretty fast and speedy. Good tackler.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gets lost in traffic a little bit. He's a little undersized. But
Yeah.
Other than that, he's pretty decent.
There you go. And that Bears defense already very, very good. So he'll, the better the defense, the less you got to do to thrive.
That's right.
Cincinnati Bengals, they have placed the franchise tag on A.J. Green, just like their savior Joe Burrow told them to. So I don't know how happy A.J. Green is about that. I don't think he was a super discontented football player there. It's not like there's a whole lot of bad blood, I don't think. I think he was interested in hitting the free agency to capitalize on money, but, who knows?
Nah, I think he was kind of done, honestly. I think this is going to be his last year.
You think?
And he'll retire. Yeah, I do.
I think it'll depend on...
I think that's kind of the rumors that were coming out, is he was pretty much done, and they franchise tagged him, so he decided to come back for another year.
I think it'll depend
We'll
on
see.
how things go. If him and Joe Burrow really click and things are looking good, then, that's one thing, but...
That could be true. Just hit the free agency and go to the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, just do it already.
Just do it already. So another big mover in the free agency was the Cleveland Browns. They got Jack Conklin, offensive tackle, 3-year, $42 million deal with $30 million fully guaranteed. So I think this is a good deal with Baker Mayfield. They've had offensive line problems for the past few years, and Jack Conklin is a very good offensive tackle. So I think that's a good deal there. They also got Austin Hooper, as we were explaining a little bit earlier, made him the highest paid tight end in the NFL,
Yep.
which I am surprised on two levels by this, that the Browns gave a tight end the highest, made a tight end the highest paid person in the NFL for his position, and that the highest paid tight end is only $11 million a year. When I saw that number, I looked it up on 3 websites to be like, that can't, 11. So he signed a 4-year, $44 million deal. And I was like, that can't be true. $11 million just cannot be the highest paid guy.
Oh.
And it is.
Yeah.
$11 million for the tight end spot is the highest paid.
I wonder what
person in
Gronk
his
was
position.
getting back when he was playing. You would think it was more than that.
I would have thought so
Who
too.
knows? I guess that's
I remember people saying that that Jimmy Graham, when the Packers signed Jimmy Graham, I think he was getting $10 million a year, and everyone was like, that was real big money. But I never really looked into it. It was $10 million. That's not a lot. I mean, you pay your third wide receiver
Right.
that sometimes.
Right.
So I was like, well, I don't see what the big deal is, but I guess I do now.
Yeah.
If that really is true. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of weird because they have David Njoku there as a tight end on the Browns, who has shown quite a bit of promise, and so it kind of makes you wonder whether or not they're going to be trading him. So I've heard some speculation that they might be sending Njoku out to the old Packers. So that might be interesting.
That would certainly be interesting.
I like Njoku. I think he's shown quite a bit.
Yeah, I like Njoku as well.
Yep.
So the other things they locked up. Well, they didn't lock up. They put a second-round tender on a restricted free agent, Kareem Hunt, which means if another team signs him, they would have to give up a second-round pick to the Cleveland Browns.
Right.
And then Case Keenum. This one's kind of a shocker to me.
I thought so, too.
They signed a 3-year, $18 million deal for a quarterback that's for sure going to be a backup.
Yep.
To Baker Mayfield. So I thought that was kind of strange, but hey, backup QBs can come into play in a big way sometimes in the NFL.
Yep. All right, we gotta move it along here, Hetty. We are at
Yes, we do.
45 minutes or something already. So, and we're only in the C's. All right. Dallas. You know what? You want to just touch on the big name ones? You want to keep?
I think
just buzz through them.
Keep working along at it. We can buzz through them a little bit more.
We can give them a little bit longer of an episode this week since we didn't do one last week. I guess you're right.
Absolutely.
All right, Dallas Cowboys have re-signed Blake Jarwin, aka Jaws. I saw them calling him. I'm not a Cowboys fan, so I didn't know he was called Jaws. But tight end, 3-year, $24 million with $9 million guaranteed. Which, based on what we just learned, is a pretty decent salary for a tight end.
Absolutely.
And they have franchise tagged Dak Prescott.
Yeah, the exclusive.
I can't believe they didn't get a deal done with him. Like, that's some bad juju.
Yeah, I think Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys messed up on 2 contracts real big.
You done messed up, Ron.
You done messed up.
So
and Amari Cooper, because if you're going to place the tag on Prescott, which is not what he wanted,
right? Of course not,
and not get a deal done with Amari Cooper so he can hit the free agent market, that's just insane. Like, you have to get one of those deals done and then tag the other one to keep them both.
And it shouldn't be that difficult.
You made your star quarterback upset with you, and now Amari Cooper can hit the free agency. It's dumbfounded that this was allowed to happen. It's ridiculous.
I mean, they did it the exact opposite of how they should have done it, which was they paid their running back insane money and then did not pay and get a deal done with their quarterback and their star wide receiver. Like, that's literally the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do, because running backs, I mean, don't get me wrong, Ezekiel Elliott, great running back. But as we have learned over the last 5-10 years in the NFL, you don't pay running backs. They don't last, and they can drop off very quickly, especially after they get paid. So look at Melvin Gordon, look at David Johnson, look at look at Le'Veon Bell, look at Gurley. Don't get me wrong. I like Le'Veon Bell. I think he's a great teammate. I think he's a great player. I think a lot of the problems were Gase and offensive line related. But yeah, he didn't perform at the level that I was hoping he was going to. And for that, you didn't deserve as much as he got paid. And that's why you don't pay running backs like that, which they did. And now look at what's going on. They don't have their quarterback under contract, and they don't have their star wide receiver under contract, and it's a big old hullabaloo, Hattie.
It's a big old hullabaloo. Well, I heard that Stephen A. Smith told Dak Prescott to not play this year. Don't sign the tag. Sit out.
I love Stephen A. Smith's
Me too. He gets fiery. I like it.
He just loves trolling Cowboys fans, and he does it so well. I can't get enough of it. Like, when the Cowboys have an absolutely disgraceful loss, and he shows up the next morning wearing a cowboy hat, or even Shannon Sharp on what is that show that he does with Undisputed? When he shows up with a cowboy hat on and cowboy boots and stuff, and they're just trolling. Skip Bayless, yeah. I can't get enough of it. I really can't. So,
it's great.
The fact that Stephen A. did that is just, the next level of trolling. So I love it.
Yep. All right. So moving on to the Denver Broncos, AJ Bouye, the cornerback, was acquired in a trade from the Jacksonville Jaguars in exchange for a 4th-round pick. Jaguars giving away a lot of talent here. They also re-signed Graham Glasgow, an offensive guard, to a 4-year, $44 million deal. And they put a franchise tag on their safety, Justin Simmons.
All right. Hattie, is this next one the reason that you wanted me to go first? Did you go back and work your way back through it so that you did not have to try to pronounce this name?
I mean, I wish I could say that I didn't do that, but that would be a lie because I totally did.
I love that you did that, and I love that I knew that you did that. Oh man, that's amazing. Anyways, in other news, the Detroit Lions have agreed to a 5-year, $50 million deal with Halapoulivaati Vaitai, an offensive tackle. So,
yep. Well, I also did it. The other reason was so I could do my Green Bay Packers. Yeah. We got 2 signings.
I figured
both
before you're gonna do it, I figured that's why you did it from the get go. Like when you were like, no, you go first. I was like, must be the Packers. He figured out which one of the Packers. But then I saw that name. I was like, that's got to be the reason. All right.
It was a double whammy because I counted back from the Packers, and then the Detroit Lions are right next to
Right.
it. So I saw that, and I'm like, if I get to do the Packers, he's also got to do that name.
Hala Pulvati Vaitai.
We re-signed not re-signed. We got a linebacker, Christian Kirksey, from the Browns, I believe, to a 2-year, $16 million deal. And we signed from the Lions a offensive tackle, Rick Wagner, which should fill the position of Brian Bulaga, as he's forecasted not to re-sign with the Packers, as he's going to gain a lot of money in free agency, and we just can't afford him.
Yep. Okay.
So that's it for the Packers. Yeah.
All right, and the Texans, the Bill O'Brien-led Texans, have re-signed Kaimi Fairbairn. They're what?
I just think it's funny that they're so worried about their kicker that they already got him re-signed, but they're just going to let their star wide receiver leave.
Well, you know, the first thing that they were worried about there was getting Kaimi Fairbairn locked down.
Oh, for
No
sure.
doubt about
He's probably got the most points in franchise history, like most kickers do.
Probably does. I know that he was, I think, the most accurate kicker in the league a couple of years ago, or at least one of the top ones. Kaimi Fairbairn's a good kicker. He re-signed with them, 4-year, $17 million. That includes $9 million guaranteed. So that's a pretty good contract for a kicker, I'd say.
Yeah, very nice.
They have re-signed Darren Fells, 2 years, $7 million. You see how they're re-signing their players? That's what the Jets are supposed to be doing, by the way. I'm just saying. They have acquired David Johnson. Wow, very prestigious. Through the trade with the Cardinals, where they traded away their future in exchange for a second-round pick in 2020 and a fourth-rounder in 2021. And they gave up DeAndre Hopkins in a fourth-round pick. So, and then also Bradley Roby has signed with them 3 years, $36 million. He's a quarterback, pretty decent quarterback, I'd say.
Yeah, a good quarterback. Yeah. All right. Indianapolis Colts. They traded for DeForest Buckner. This was another one that kind of shocked me. He's a very good defensive tackle from the 49ers. But
they had a lot of talent.
They give away a first
they had a lot of talent.
round draft pick for him. They do. They do. I think that helps out the Colts a lot. It was definitely a position of need that they needed. Gave up a first round pick and gave a massive contract extension, $21 million per season.
Mama.
Ooh. I hope they're getting Phillip Rivers on a team-friendly deal, because that's a lot of money.
Well, here's the thing. The Colts haven't spent money in free agency in like 2 years. They've got like a metric butt ton of money. So, they have the money to spend. They could afford to go out and buy some really good players.
They do. They have a lot of cap space. And they agreed to a 2-year, $33 million contract with Anthony Costanzo. Constanza.
Constantine Florio.
Offensive tackle. Very solid player there.
Yep. Jacksonville Jaguars have placed this is not a hard one. Yannick Ngakoue. I placed a franchise tag on him. So that was one that I was really, really hoping was going to hit free agency. He has stated that he is done playing in Jacksonville. So we'll see how that plays out, because he was ready to hit free agency. They did not get a deal done. And he said, I'm done playing here. And then they franchise tagged him. So
yeah, you gotta love players who come out and are like, I do not want to play here. I will not sign a contract. Oh, we're gonna put a tag on you then.
Awkward. So yeah, it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit unfortunate. Looks like it could possibly get a little ugly here with a little standoff. I would imagine personally that they're going to try and get a deal done with him, and if they can't, they'll probably trade him, because I think that there's not a lot of love loss going on there between old Yannick and Jacksonville down in Duval County. So that's all for the Jags, other than them trading away Calais Campbell.
Yeah, for sure. The Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs, put a franchise tag on their star defensive tackle, Chris Jones, and also locked up a key piece in their backfield with Damian Williams. They picked up his $2.3 million contract option for next year. So nothing big, nothing flashy, but when you're the Super Bowl champs, you don't really have to do too much.
Yeah, that's right. And for the Las Vegas Raiders,
officially now,
yeah.
the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. It's the first time I think I've seen that in writing. They have agreed to terms on a 3-year, $21 million, contract with Nick Kwiatkowski. And he is coming over from the Bears. He's been a really good linebacker over there for them. I'm just looking at his stats here. Total of 76 tackles, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception over the last couple seasons. So, no, that's not. What was that for 2020? Yes.
2019.
Yeah. Because he had 4 forced fumbles. I'm not sure what that stat is. 139 tackles. So
yeah, that's pretty good.
Been a really good linebacker, inside linebacker for the Bears. Again, coming off that Bears defense, everybody wants a piece of a really solid defense. So I think you guys got a piece too, right?
We got a Browns piece.
Okay. But yeah, so old Kwiatkowski going over to the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Los Angeles Chargers now. They agreed to a 4-year, $24.5 million deal with Austin Eckler. Don't know what's going to happen with the Melvin Gordon situation there, but Austin Eckler was
amazing
for the last 2 years. Was very good in the backfield.
Absolutely,
and probably was better than Melvin Gordon for a lot of the year last year.
Unquestionably better.
Yeah. So very good pickup there. If Gordon isn't back next year.
Yep.
Hunter Henry, they placed the franchise tag on him for the tight end spot. And Trey Turner, the guy that we were talking about before, swapped places with the Carolina Panthers with Russell Okung. So he's there now.
Yeah.
And that does it for them.
I think they've had a pretty nice little offseason. I mean, getting Austin Eckler signed, I think, is a good one. I think it's a very reasonable deal that he signed for. So that works out to $6 million a year. So I think that's a nice, team friendly deal, considering the production he put out. But that's, he was I think he was an undrafted rookie, when they got him. So, he doesn't have the pedigree that comes with some of the higher picks.
And they got rid of a very high-priced guy in Okung and got a solid person in Turner just to give themselves a little bit more cap space because they're looking for a quarterback. They're looking for a couple pieces on that team, so they need to spend some money to fill those holes. And got to keep good spot players on the offensive line and keep your skill players. So I think quietly they've done a very good job there so far.
And LA Rams have not had any notable additions at this point, so we will not cover them.
We'll go right on to the Miami Dolphins. I think they've also had a secretly really good offseason as well. They got Eric Flowers, a very good star offensive tackle. I believe he was from the Kansas City Chiefs, if I'm not mistaken. I was hoping you would agree with me on that. I think he's from the Kansas City Chiefs. A 3-year deal, $30 million for the Dolphins. They are also another team that made a highest paid player in their position in Byron Jones from the Cowboys in a deal that's $17 million a year. They got an edge linebacker and Shaq Lawson, signed a 3-year, $30 million contract. And then they pried away Kyle Van Noy from their
love that.
arch nemesis.
Love me some of that.
The Patriots. This is another guy I kind of had my eyes on that I wanted for the Packers to get, but we didn't get him. Probably because his asking price was a 4-year, $51 million deal that included $30 million guaranteed. So Miami Dolphins had some money to spend in the offseason, and they are spending it quick.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, hey, you got draft picks, you got money, and you got a bad team. So the reason you got the draft picks and the reason you cut bait on some of these guys to save cap space is so you could go out and turn it around in a really quick turnaround. I think they're putting together a nice little team. If they can land, Tua in here, we've been mispronouncing his last name. I don't know if you've picked up on that. I guess Tua pronounces his last name Tunga Vailoa.
What?
Yeah, there's no N. It's T-A-G is the first three letters of his name, but he pronounces it Tunga Vailoa.
Huh.
So,
because I've heard it on all the newscasters.
Yeah.
They all say Tagovailoa, but
Yep.
guess we've been doing it wrong.
Yep. So, well, I mean, based on the English language, we're doing it right, but according to him, we are doing it wrong. So, from now on, I will try to do my best to refer to him by the name that he pronounces it as. If the Dolphins can go out and get Tua Tagovailoa, then I think that'll be a huge get for them. I think they need to do a little bit more work still to shore up that offensive line based on them losing Laramie Tunsil last year. And they need to get a running back that's worth something. But other than that, I think they're putting their team back together in a nice little way. Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Okie dokie. And next up, we got the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm highlighting everything instead of scrolling up. I'm so used to using my phone where I just kind of put my thing down and slide that using the computer is it's so foreign to me. Yeah, a little bit. Bear with me, guys. Minnesota Vikings re-signed C.J. Ham, fullback, 4-year, $12 million. So, fullbacks, they're kind of a rare commodity in the league nowadays. You don't see a whole lot of them on rosters. Usually if you need a fullback, sometimes you'll bring in a tight end and use them as a fullback. They evidently value the position. Safety Anthony Harris, this team has franchise tagged him. And Eric Wilson, linebacker, team has placed a second-round tender on him. So just kind of all three of them are just guys that were already on their team.
All right. So now going to your arch nemesis, the New England Patriots.
Hey, they're your arch nemesis too, bub.
They re-signed Devin McCourty. Their safety agreed to a 2-year, $23 million contract. They got their another guy, Matthew Slater.
Mm-hmm.
What position does he? What's ST? I don't know what that position that is. Tack. I don't know what that is.
Matthew.
Was agreed to a 2-year extension.
Is it Matthew Slater, reporter?
Is it a snapper?
No.
A snapper? I'm just trying to think. There's a
special teams, maybe.
I don't. Oh, that might be it. Matthew, a special team. I bet that's what it is. A special teams player. Man, why can't they just assign him the poor guy a position? Yeah, that's a $5.3 million deal. And then Joe. No,
he's a wide receiver.
Well, he's probably a wide receiver, but he's so low on the depth chart. He's more a special teams.
Well, let's see here.
Yeah, I'm going to call him a wide receiver though, because special teams.
I'll tell you what. He has been with the Patriots since 2008, and according to his career stats, if you click on his name, he has 46 yards receiving in his entire career.
So not a lot.
So in the last 12 years, he has got about 46 yards, which was on one reception.
Oh, well, that's probably why he's listed as a special team, not a wide receiver.
That's why that is why we did not know what that that position designation was. We were like,
they need to get this poor guy 100 yards.
Yeah, come on. I mean, he was playing with friggin' Tom Brady during that time. I mean, they couldn't get him in one game over 100 yards. Is that your GOAT? He's not my GOAT. Not
my GOAT. And they placed a franchise tag on Joe Thuney, their offensive guard.
Joe Thuney. And that one really makes me mad.
What?
The Joe Thuney franchise tag. I was really, really, really hoping the Jets could get him in free agency. He's a really good offensive lineman. And yeah, I did not expect the Patriots to put the franchise tag on him. So that's.
But they did.
So
anything to thwart the plans of the Jets.
Well, I figured that they were going to put it on Kyle Van Noy, but hey, what are you going to do? So yeah, that's the Patriots. Saints have re-signed David Onyemata, a defensive tackle, 3 years, $27 million. We got to hustle, Hattie. Nice. We're an hour and 8 minutes already.
All right, we're hustling. New York Giants have agreed to a 3-year, $45 million deal for James Bradbury, and they also placed a franchise tag on Leonard Williams.
Yeah.
And now I'll turn it over to you, since you had the unfortunate fortunes of selecting the Los Angeles Rams as having no key additions. So why don't you just do another one here?
My favorite team in the entire world, the only sports team that I give a crap about, has no notable additions at this point. Let's throw it back to you, Hattie. Philadelphia Eagles.
All right. The Philadelphia Eagles have gotten Javon Hargrave, their nose tackle, 3-year, $39 million deal.
I'm going to stop you. Here's the thing. They are listing punters on here. They're listing Matthew Slater, a player who has had in the last 12 years caught 46 receiving yards as a notable addition on the free agency tracker. We have not even re-signed somebody as qualified as somebody who has caught 46 yards receiving in the last 12 years. We don't even have somebody good enough. We don't even have somebody that's better than a special teamer to list. What is going on at One Jets Drive? Seriously. What the hell's happening?
Rebuilding.
Good Lord. Come on, guys.
Rebuilding for sure.
Is the building closed for renovations? Like, come on. I mean, you work from home. I know it's the coronavirus situation, but I mean, are your phones broken? Pick up the phone and make some calls, guys.
The New York Jets didn't invest in e-sign, so I
guess not.
Nobody can sign their contract.
Shut up. Yeah, we're gonna need you to fly here. Oh, you can't do that. It's gonna be an issue. Oh, okay. That's what everybody else is saying too. Oh, Lord have mercy.
So moving right along to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers. They put the franchise tag on Bud Dupree. We kind of saw that coming. But another person I was really hoping the Jets could possibly get, edge rusher, great player. He was going to be expensive though, so the Jets probably couldn't have afforded him. But not that they would have called him anyway. It's like all these players that I really wanted that got franchise tagged. It's not like the Jets would have called him. Quite obviously. I mean, like the Jets are like, nah, dude. We're on top of it. We're ordering some Domino's right now, so we don't have time.
You can't go out and go grocery shopping or go to the restaurant, so you got to order takeout.
Yeah, maybe that's what's going on. Maybe Joe Douglas is stuck at a Walmart waiting for toilet paper and doesn't realize free agency started. Good Lord.
He's like, I just got to run down to the store and get some toilet paper, guys. I'll be right back.
Sweet Lord in heaven. All right. Let's move this along before I start getting all tossed it again. 49ers, you go.
Yep, San Francisco 49ers. Eric Armstead, defensive line, has re-signed a 5-year deal. Big deal.
Huge.
Worth $85 million.
Huge deal. I can't believe that. That's wild, man.
Yeah, I mean, got to get back to that Super Bowl somehow and blow it.
And blow it. Come on now, Hattie. Weren't you rooting? You were rooting for the 49ers.
I was.
Yeah, so what are you talking about?
They blew it.
I mean, he said Eric Armstead.
Just like the Falcons did the year before.
Eric Armstead had 10 sacks last year, so he's doing pretty good. Had 32 total tackles, 2 forced fumbles. So, yeah, he had a pretty good year. I don't know if he had an $85 million year, but... I guess they disagree with me. So, Seattle Seahawks. They have put a second-round tender on tight end Jacob Hollister and have signed a 1-year, $7 million deal with Greg Olsen in February. See, they're putting deals from February on this tracker. The Jets have done nothing. The Jets have done absolutely. They're putting deals from last month on here. They're putting special teamers. It's not like it was a high bar for entry to put any player under this thing. I think the Jets are one of 2 teams that did not list it doesn't have a single player, a single special teamer, or a single deal that got done a month or 2 ago on here. Come on.
Yeah, Jets and Rams not making too many moves.
Good Lordy. All right.
But moving right along to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we got a little Shaquille Barrett.
You can just go with Shaq Barrett. Shaquille.
I wanted to do a little Shaquille because I thought it was fun. Shaq Barrett, edge rusher, have placed the franchise tag on him. Yep. And Jason Pierre-Paul.
JPP.
They re-signed. Little JPP.
Yep.
2-year, $27 million deal. I mean, teams are signing players without all their fingers. And the Jets can't get one guy.
The Jets are like, you guys got anybody out there that's got 6 fingers? We're looking for people with 6 fingers. They can't find them. That's why they haven't signed anybody yet.
That's true.
Oh,
That's true.
Lord. Hey, I'll tell you what. Maybe by this time next week, we'll have at least one notable player on there. I mean, what does notable player even mean? They've got somebody on there that has caught 46 receiving yards in the last 12 years. How is that a notable player?
All it means is they've re-signed anybody.
His position is special teams. It's not. It's like saying his position is defense. Like, what does that even mean? His position is special teams. How is that a notable player? Good Lord.
I hope there's like a new coaching member that they say that they're next week. We signed a special teams coordinator.
Yeah, we received or re-signed our Gunners coach. But it won't be under the Jets.
Our long snappers coach, we got a real good deal.
It won't be under the Jets. It'll be like under the Dolphins or something. The Jets will still be showing nobody. All right, so you got the Buccaneers done. All right, Tennessee Titans. They have placed a franchise tag on Derrick Henry. They agreed to terms with Dennis Kelly, offensive lineman, offensive tackle to be specific, for him to return. It's a 3-year, $21 million contract. So that's good. You got to keep whoever, that's why Derrick Henry looked good last year. That's why Tannehill looked good last year. You got to have a good offensive line. And Ryan Tannehill has agreed to a 4-year, $118 million contract, $62 million full.
Way too much.
That's crazy money.
So this deal is $29.5 million a year.
That is life-changing money.
An above-average quarterback. Yep. Way too much money, in my opinion.
100% agree.
And the Tennessee Titans will never make the Super Bowl because of it.
I don't know if I'd say that. I mean, it's not prohibitive money. It's just too much for who Ryan Tannehill is and who he has been over his career.
Prohibitive money.
It's not. I mean, it's with the
name 10 players that make more money than him. Oh, right, you can't.
Amari or what? Hooper, that tight end. He's coming close, man. He's the highest. He's coming close to that highest paid tight end in the game. Nobody's doing it like Hooper.
Let's round this out with the Washington Redskins. Oh, yeah. Brandon Scherff, offense. I think it's Scherff. All right, whatever. I'll trust you.
It is.
Scherff. Guard, placed a franchise tag on him. And Wes Schweitzer.
Nice. Schweitzer.
Offensive guard, signed a 3-year deal worth $13.5 million. So even the poorly managed Washington Redskins are getting some guys signed and some tags used. Yeah. I mean, you guys have a tag. Why don't you guys use it on somebody?
That would be nice. Yeah, that'd be smart, wouldn't it? Like Brian Poole or Jeremy Jenkins or Jordan Jenkins or Robbie Anderson or who's our left tackle there? I'm drawing a blank. That's what a couple glasses of whiskey will do. Anyway,
so
that's it.
That covers it for our podcast for this week. Yep. We're going to do something a little special in the show after the show, but you'll have to stick around for that to find out what it is. As always, join us in the discussions on Twitter, Grown Man's Pod. Follow us on or subscribe to us on Patreon if you would like to support the show. A couple dollars here and there goes a long way to delivering great content to everybody out there. And let us know what you think about the show, either good or bad, and we'll interact with you no matter what. Tell us which whiskeys you'd like to try, stuff that you'd like to see us cover on the busy free agent season, and stick around for the show after the show.
Yeah. And we do want to thank our Patreon sponsors, Darlene, Gus, Barry, and Wes. We really appreciate it. And if you guys want to get your name shouted out, go over to Patreon, man. You'll get a sticker out of it, too. We'll send you a sticker in the mail. And, hey, if people start signing up more frequently, maybe we'll actually get those portraits done of us in our Miami Vice outfits. Right? Our headshots?
Maybe. Just maybe.
Hey, I'll tell you what. If anybody signs up this week for Patreon, we will get our Miami Vice headshots done and sign them and send them to you along with your stickers. You agree with that, Hetty?
If it's anybody we don't
you know what? We can't do it this week. Yes. Okay, here's the thing. If you do it this week,
it's got to be...
I'm under quarantine, so I can't physically be with Hattie. But if you do it this week, then when I am out of quarantine, if I'm still alive, which I'm planning on being alive, right? If I'm still alive after I'm done being under quarantine, then me and Hattie will get our headshots done, and we will sign them and send them to you. But it's a 1 week deal, man.
Absolutely.
So $1 a month will get it done. And yeah, thanks for listening. Hey, Hattie,
stay manly.
Roll the music.
Mm-hmm. Welcome into the show after the show, the whiskey review. Or since T-Bone's still in quarantine this week, we're just gonna talk a little. We are actually
it's a whiskey chit chat.
Yeah, we are sipping whiskey. Yeah. We're not gonna do a formal review because that kind of takes away from it when we're not sipping the same thing. Right. We can't be together. We can't compare notes or tasting palates. You can't have one bottle of whiskey in two different locations to be able to do it. So I'm having some whiskey. Tom's having some whiskey. I'm just gonna.
What are you drinking?
Talk a little bit. So I'm drinking a little Glenfiddich 21.
Okay.
I gotta drink my good whiskey if I'm gonna die from the coronavirus. So can't have too much sitting on my shelf.
You don't want to die with whiskey in your storehouse, right?
Definitely not.
And I plan on dying with whiskey in my storehouse because, boy, I stopped and stocked up a little bit today on my way home because if the crap hits the fan, I'm still going to have bourbon in my house. So I stopped and bought a big old jug of Jim Beam. And so I'm just drinking some just straight Jim Beam. And I said I was going to put it over ice, but my daughter dropped our ice tray out of the freezer and ruined all the ice, so I'm just drinking it neat.
Yeah, I called her earlier, and when you told me that you were going to put ice in it, and I'm like, make sure there's no ice in the house so he doesn't ruin whiskey and have an abomination on our podcast with somebody that puts ice in their whiskey.
Yeah.
Just would be terrible. Can't happen.
There's nothing wrong with ice and whiskey. There's a place for it.
There is.
This week when I was on my cruise, I was drinking a lot of Johnny Walker Black Label on ice on the rocks, and I'll tell you, I mean, Black Label's good enough to drink neat.
It is.
It's right there at the line, but I'd say it's over the line where you can drink it neat. But you know what? Better with ice.
Yeah, you can put it on ice while you're sitting by the pool. You can even put it's good with a little soda in it too if you want a little bubbly.
Yeah.
Put a little
scotch and sody pop.
Yeah,
a little road soda for the cruise. A little cruise pop
for sure. Yeah, so we talked about you going on vacation. Never told the story about my vacation. I was supposed to go on pretty much the same vacation as you, same boat. On the 22nd, I was supposed to leave, but since the world has changed in 2 weeks since our last podcast, my vacation was canceled. You got to go on your lovely vacation, and mine was canceled.
Me and you. Yeah, we're scheduled to go on the exact same ship for the exact same port of calls and everything. It's literally the exact same cruise and just same workers and everything.
2 weeks later.
Yep, and while we were on our cruise, we found out that there had been a ban that was placed on all cruises for the next 30 days or whatever, a shutdown of the cruise industry. And so Hattie got caught up in that, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's nothing like having, planning, paying for, like getting ready for a vacation. Oh, yeah. And then like 2 weeks before you're supposed to go, they're just like, oh, by the way.
Remember how we said we were going to let you onto our ship?
Remember when you were supposed to have a wonderful time in warm, sunny locations next to beaches, drinking delicious, fruity island drinks? Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Not going to happen at all. But we do appreciate you sailing with Norwegian, so thanks for that.
Not a sponsor.
No, not a sponsor. And I don't know at this point if we want them to be, with the amount of death that's probably associated with them. But no. Norwegian's great. I absolutely love Norwegian. And I'll tell you, while I was on this cruise, me and old Rick, we decided to buy some sailor's caps, like captain hats, like the white ones, off Amazon for $9 each. And I will tell you, I have not gotten more positive feedback from a single item of clothing that I have worn ever in my entire life. Every single time I wore that captain's hat out and about during the cruise, I had women coming up to me asking if they could take a picture with it, or, every single person I ran into was like, "Oh, who's driving the boat?" And even the crew was getting in on it. They were like, "Oh, Captain, nice to see you today." I'll tell you, if you had a few drinks and you're looking for a little attention, there's no better way to do it than with a captain's hat.
A little captain's hat.
That's just a little. That's just a little tip for you going forward.
I can imagine you and your big bro walking around the boat with your captain's hat on, just playing that up, big time.
It's a total T-Bone and Rick bit, is what it is. So yeah, it was a lot of fun wearing that around, and I will actually absolutely do that every time I go on a cruise ship from now on, because it's fun.
Yep.
It's a good time that everybody seems to enjoy it and find it funny, and
you got to have a good time. So. That's actually like one of the things I kind of like about cruising is everyone is on vacation. 99% of the people are pretty cool and just want to have fun, and they're the people you meet on a cruise ship are usually a little bit nicer than the people you bump into out and about in your normal everyday life. So
of course,
it's always a little bit more fun that way.
Why would you not be happier than you normally are? You're on a cruise, man.
Yeah.
You're just sailing around, just having... I'll tell you, I drank more rum punch this week.
Oh, man, rum punch is great on Norwegian.
Ooh, yeah, big time, man.
It's my go-to when the lines are long, because one of the drinks they have like pre-made up in their little bin. And when they're making all the other drinks for everyone else and it's like taking a long time, you can just go up to kind of like the side and be like, "I just having a rum punch." And they're like, "Oh," and they have one to you in like 30 seconds. That's a cruise tip for you. Find out what the pre-made drinks are when you go to the, like, especially like when you're at the pool, and the pool bar is always like packed on prime time, so you can go up there. Don't get your fancy made drinks that time. Just get the ones that are already pre-made up or something that's real easy, and you'll have them lickety split, as people say.
Oh yeah, lickety split. I'll tell you, I was doing a little evangelizing for the old cruise or for the podcast while I was on. Also, we did a Macallan tasting. Which was nice, and one of the guys sitting next to me was a Lions fan. He had a Lions lanyard on, and he was at a whiskey tasting, so naturally I decided to start talking to him about the podcast, and old Rick and his wife started laughing, and I was like, "What are you laughing at?" They're like, "Oh, we had a bet on what the over-under was for, when you were going to bring up the podcast, after he said he was a football fan." So I was like, What? I mean, what do you want me to do here? The guy's a football fan, and he's at a whiskey tasting. Quite clearly, his interests overlap with what my podcast is about.
Absolutely.
Why would I not bring it up?
Absolutely.
So you
have to.
When you do go on the podcast, I'm going to have to send you with some stickers, because that was the biggest oversight that I had, was not bringing stickers with me to hand them out to people that I met along the way. Because I met a lot of people that I talked to about the podcast.
Man.
But there's one guy specifically I remember at the Macallan tasting, which was nice, just to sit down and talk with people for a little bit and tell them about what we do.
Yeah. Especially at a whiskey tasting. Any good Macallans there?
Yeah, the Enigma was really good. The Enigma and the Terra were both good. Way overpriced, but good. The Macallan Quest was not that great.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Quest. I've had it a couple times. I don't really like the Quest. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the only one on there that's even reasonably affordable, and for what kind of whiskey it is, it's not worth the money. So none of them were worth the money. I mean, the Terra and the Enigma were both good. You can only get these, by the way, if you're listening. You can only get them on cruise ships. So don't try and find them in your stores. And I would recommend you not trying to find them even on a cruise ship, because they're not worth the price. I think the Enigma was the 20-something year whiskey, and it was like $270. So I can't rationalize spending that much on a bottle that is not Johnny Walker Blue Label. So, but yeah, it was good. It was a really nice cruise. Good time.
Yeah, glad you had a good time. It's always good to get that weekly relaxation in.
Sorry you are not able to go yet. I think at some point you are going to be going, right?
Yes, hopefully. I'm going to hold out my Norwegian love until I get off customer service with them to try to figure out exactly what I can get on a boat and exactly what they're going to do for me. Because I actually because they said they're going to I'm in the bracket where I'm supposed to get 125% of my purchase price for my cruise. So I went on and I was looking at cruises in, April, May, whenever I think I'm going to be able to get on there. And yeah, they're more than 125% more than the one that I paid for. So yeah. I hope I'm just going to get on the phone with customer service and be like, I just want to get on the cruise. Don't worry about giving me anything extra. I just want the same cruise for some time whenever you guys open up that I can get on the boat. I don't need anything extra. I don't want to pay anything extra. Just get me on the next date. That's all I want.
Get me on.
Just get me on. And don't make me pay extra because I don't think I should have to.
You should just bon voyage.
Well, that's true.
Yep.
Well, that's all I got.
That's all I got. So I'll tell you what. If you guys are listening, I got a funny little story for the Patreon podcast. That my mom on the cruise with us. It was a family cruise. So she told me this funny story that I'm going to relay on the Patreon podcast. So if you guys want to hear that, then go ahead and become a Patreon supporter. Just $1 or $2 a month, and hey, you'll get some sweet headshots of me and Hattie dressed up like Miami Vice detectives. If you do it this week,
and some stickers. If you do,
and some stickers,
you get stickers regardless if you do it this week or not.
And just the wonderful knowledge that you're supporting a mom and pop operation here.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. All right.
Thanks for
listening, guys. All right. Welcome into the Patreon exclusive episode of the Grown Man's Podcast. We'd like to start out by saying thank you to you guys who are listening, because if you are listening to this episode, then you are helping to support the show, and we really, really greatly appreciate that.
You're an exclusive club.
Yes, very exclusive at this point. Hopefully it gets less exclusive as time goes on. But you four will always be very dear to our hearts. Especially because one of you birthed me, so there's always that. Anyway, so we really appreciate you guys supporting the show. So I just had a funny little story that I wanted to share with you that I heard while I was on vacation. My mom already knows the story because she told me about it. It's about my uncle Jimmy, who's quite the character, I must add.
I like characters.
Oh, yeah, he's a big-time character, bud. Imagine me with, a big, white, bushy beard and, imagine me condensed twice as redneck, twice as, knuckleheady. I don't know what the real word for this would be. He's quite the character, right? And one time, I'll tell you two stories here. Okay. The first story was when me and my wife were first dating, very, very beginning of dating. And we were camping up at my mom's up at my mom's land there. Have you been up to my mom's land?
I don't think so.
No? We'll have to get you up there sometime. Anyway, we were camping up there, and Rachel and the kids were there, and a bunch of my family was there, my mom's brothers and sisters and stuff. And so Rachel and the kids and Pat and Amy and their kids were settled down in the tents, and I'd been up, I'd had a couple of road sodas at that time, a couple cold pops, and I was feeling a little bit wiry, so I went looking for another beer. Like I'm known to do occasionally, like when I asked old Jeff for the beer in the hammock there that I spilled all over myself. But I wanted another
Great
beer,
story.
and we had ran out of beer. Yeah, different story. And so I went down the hill looking for somebody who had a beer, and I ran into my old Uncle Jimmy, and so he had a beer for me. We got to talking for a minute, and he made this sound. It was like I don't know if it'll translate on the thing. But it was like, but really loud, and it sounded just like a bobcat or like a mountain lion or something, And so I was like, "Oh, Jimmy, that's awesome!" I was like, "We've got to go up there and scare everybody with that." And so so I came up, I walked into the tent and I, zipped it back up behind me, and I had a beer in my hand. I was like, I got a beer from old Jimmy. And they're like, oh, okay. So started settling down, and all of a sudden, 20 yards out into the woods, he started making that noise and kind of rustling around a little bit. And they were like, do you hear that? I was like, no, what? And they're like, you didn't hear that? I was like, we all got quiet and we listened and we were, get me here, out in the woods, and it starts getting closer and closer and closer, and it's walking around the tent and breaking twigs and stuff and growling at this point and stuff, and I'm like, and of course I know what's going on. I know it's my Uncle Jimmy out there, so I know that I'm not at any kind of risk. I'm like, I don't have my gun with me here. I was like, my gun's in my mom's cabin. They're like, what are we gonna do? I was like, I'm gonna have to run for it. I was like, we can't just sit here and wait for this thing to get in here. I was like, zip the tent up, right behind me as soon as I leave. And so I ran, I ran out there and I went to go get my gun, and I came running back through and got into the tent, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna try to shoot it, and I ran out there and I got attacked or whatever, and they were all freaking out. The kids were half crying. I felt bad about that part, but like I said, I had a couple of beers. I was feeling a little wiry, so I wasn't feeling that bad about it. But
you made your kids cry. You're proud of yourself?
Well, I mean, they weren't crying, but. So there. Obviously, after that happened, I was like, I'm just joking. I'm joking. It's me and Uncle Jimmy, and Rachel was so mad at me. Oh Lord, she was mad at me, and the kid said, "Why did Daddy do that to us?" And she said, "'Cause he's an idiot." No,
and you were like, "That was kind of worth it."
Yeah, I mean, and no truer statement's ever been uttered, really. I am a little bit of a buffoon, but it was all fun and games, at least for me. So that's Uncle Jimmy, right? Jimmy's fully willing to help me make my wife and kids cry. But.
That's a good one. I liked it.
Yeah.
But I will interrupt your second story with breaking news.
Really?
Breaking NFL news.
Ooh.
Just happened right now.
What's that?
And it's exclusive to the Patreon episode. Bills have traded for Stephon Diggs.
Shut up.
Yeah, true story. Just broke it.
Jesus.
10:42. The news broke. 10:42.
Kidding me. I think we need to go back and add a little addendum onto the previous episode.
Well, maybe I have other plans for it, but we'll see. We will see.
What other plans?
The other plan is, since a lot of people are giving stuff out for free or giving something back due to the coronavirus, maybe we'll make this Patreon episode free for everybody.
Okay.
It'll just be out there. It'll still be on Patreon like it normally is. But we'll put it out on. We'll put it at the end of the whiskey review to say we have a special announcement at the end of that.
And that way we can we can also let the people see what they're missing out on.
Absolutely.
That's kind of nice. Give them a little taste, like a heroin dealer.
Yeah. See, you get the breaking news in the Patreon episodes.
Right.
That's what happens.
All right. So
we never actually had one of these things break real time when we were still recording, and we finally got it.
Yeah.
So we gotta put it in the real episode.
Love it. All right. So that really does. I mean, right there. Come on. I mean, I don't even know if I was hoping for Stephon Diggs, to be perfectly honest with you. I just want the Jets to friggin' sign somebody. I don't care at this point who it is. I mean, just go find somebody off the scrap heap and sign him, so that I can at least have somebody to go do a little bit of research into and see who we have on the team now.
Go sign a special teamer.
Yeah, literally go sign anybody, and NFL.com will consider that to be a notable player, and they'll put it under your tag so that you don't look like a bunch of friggin' idiots. That would be great. That'd be good. Don't you think? That'd be nice. That'd be good.
That would be nice.
They won't do that, though.
For sure not.
Yeah. We're going to go into the year next year with a 32-person roster. Anyways. So the second story, which I found to be quite funny while I was on vacation this week when I heard about it, was my Uncle Jimmy, the aforementioned Uncle Jimmy. He was at a McDonald's somewhere, I don't know, wherever he lives, and was in line, and he was ordering, and the woman who was behind him evidently thought that he was taking too long, right? And so she started honking her horn and waving her arms and, yelling out the window and being like, hurry up, just giving him the business, kind of. And my Uncle Jimmy, he ain't the kind to deal with, with folks acting that way towards him without some kind of, comical retaliation. So knowing that she was quite clearly rude and in a rush, he decided to try to diffuse the situation by paying for her meal, which, it happens occasionally at a restaurant. It always makes you feel nice when you get up to the counter and they say the person in front of you paid.
Absolutely.
Usually it doesn't happen when you've been honking and yelling at the person, but maybe they thought, well, obviously this person's having a bad day. Let me make their day and pay for their meal. And so, no doubt when that person who was behind my Uncle Jimmy got to the window and they said that to him, and said, hey, the person in front of you paid, you don't have to pay. She was probably thinking to myself, oh man, I was being a real jerk to that person. They did something nice for me. That's really nice of them. Well, unannounced to the person who was currently having those thoughts, my Uncle Jimmy got up to the second window with both those receipts and said, yeah, both these orders are mine. I paid for them. Here's the receipts for both of them. And he took the lady's second order and he left.
That's great.
It is amazing because then
that's the best ever.
Isn't that amazing?
Because she's got to go all the way around in the line again.
Or at the very least, she has to then get up there and say, that idiot left with my meal. What an idiot! I'm already in a rush, and so then she's got to reorder it. Maybe at that window, maybe they make her go back around. Maybe she leaves with the wrong food because they're like, obviously this next car is the next paid order. I don't know. No, obviously, we don't know how the story ends. In my mind, I like to imagine that it's a scenario where the woman gets up there and finds that he was a jerk and he took both the meals that he paid for, even though he didn't want her meal. Obviously, he paid for it. It was like, you're gonna honk at me and say say those rotten things to me. I'm gonna buy your meal and I'm gonna take it. Oh my word! I thought,
that's the greatest ever. If that ever happens to me, I'm doing that.
Me too, for sure, man. I would have never thought to do that. Never in a million years. So,
smart.
That's how my Uncle Jimmy's brain works, and I love it. So I thought that'd be a funny one for the Patreon pod, and evidently we're going to be releasing this one onto the regular feed. So if you guys do like to have this kind of fun, easygoing content on a weekly basis, then you can go ahead for $1 or $2 a month. You can sign up to be a Patreon supporter. You'll get one of these in addition to the regular podcast, and we'll love you.
Yeah.
So
we also have more breaking news that just came across the ticker.
No.
Marcus Mariota has came to terms with an agreement with the Las Vegas Raiders.
Really?
So
now they
one
have
quarterback.
Now they have two bad quarterbacks.
They have Marcus Mariota and Derek. Well, maybe they'll let Derek Carr go and go get Tom Brady.
I don't.
Who knows?
That's wild.
But that's one of the bigger names and the quarterbacks that are now off the market there. So two breaking news items in 1 week.
Yeah,
and figure.
I will say this, since we are going to be releasing this episode to the masses anyway, that I did fully intend on getting into this week the still available free agents and speculation about where we thought they might end up and stuff like that. But we were just running way too long with the episode. We were at an hour and a half as it is, and so we weren't able to do that. Next week we'll recap the people who were placed, who found homes after this podcast aired, and and if whoever's still available, hopefully we'll have time to do that next week. Hopefully,
we can do a nice "Who's Left" segment.
The island of misfit toys. So
I like it.
Alrighty, thanks for listening, and to our actual Patreon supporters, thanks for supporting, and keep on being manly.
Thanks so much.
Yep.